Alabama football has lost its third recruit in 3 weeks, this time to another SEC rival. Is the Tide in trouble? What does it mean? This is Way Off Sides. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Off Sides. This is a Way Off Sides pop-up, a recruiting pop-up. Big news coming out of Tuscaloosa today as Alabama lost another verbal commitment, this time from four-star linebacker Jaden Harmon. For those of you who saw earlier, we did post a short regarding Harmon's verbal commitment flip to the University of Tennessee. We wanted to put our thoughts together and provide a deeper dive into what this means for Alabama, where they go moving forward, and hopefully provide a little bit of context as to why you shouldn't be as worried. Now, I will say, looking at the last three flips, two of those being Derek Smith and Antonio Coleman, this one does sting a little bit more. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to make it sound like it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, Alabama is still sitting in a very, very good place, even with losing those three recruits. According to 247 and other recruiting industries, Alabama still sits heavily with the number 2 class in the country. And a lot of their players grade even better than the number 1 team class, being Ohio State. Now, in terms of Jaden Harmon, this hurts for two reasons. The first being that with the last two flips over to Auburn with Derek Smith wanted to play wide receiver. We can explain that away pretty easily. He wanted to play wide receiver at Auburn. Auburn gave him that opportunity. Alabama liked Smith as a safety. That's what they wanted to use him as in Tuscaloosa. That's an area of need where Alabama is trying to create depth with personnel. He didn't do that. He wanted to play wide receiver, so Auburn gave him the opportunity. He jumped on it. Antonio Coleman, another very easy to explain. We all know what's happened with Coleman. He's flipped back and forth to Alabama and Auburn several times, with the latest flip being to Auburn after their Big Cat weekend. Now, in terms of Jaden Harmon, this one's a little bit more difficult to digest, because when you compare him to the Smith and Coleman commitment flips, it doesn't make as much sense. Also, because just a few days ago, there was talk about him talking about how he was still 100% committed to the Tide. Now, before we move further, I know what a lot of you are going to say. I know what people are already saying on Twitter, or X, and other social media platforms regarding this. Well, NIL played a big role. Yes, that is probably likely. We don't know that for sure, but it's probably likely. But here's the thing. I don't like NIL. I don't think it's being used properly. I think I kind of adhere to Nick Saban's philosophy that NIL was an opportunity for players to build a brand for themselves and sell that brand, not necessarily to buy players. But this is what we have in college football right now. So, like it or hate it, it's the current nature of things. Nothing happened under the table shady. If it was NIL, he got offered a better deal at Tennessee and he took it. Now, I would challenge you to also consider that NIL may not have been the ultimate factor for Jaden Harmon. Tennessee's on a tear right now in terms of recruiting. They just got 5-star Sanders. They've had a couple of flips in the past week. They're in the height of the curve of their recruiting. Alabama was there back in June. Now, here's the thing with that. What goes up must come down, and what comes down typically goes back up. We've got until December, okay? I'm not saying that the 4-star linebacker out of Rome, Georgia, Jaden Harmon, may flip back to Alabama. That's actually very rare that happens, unless your name's Antonio Coleman. But what I am saying is that a lot is still going to change over the next few months in Alabama's favor and not in Alabama's favor. We all know what's likely coming later this week on the 20th with AK Deer. That'll cushion the blow a little bit. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Alabama's current 2025 class. Even with these 3 quote unquote losses, Alabama still sits at the number 2 class. How is that possible? Well, Kalen DeBoer, Coach Womack, and the other recruiting staff at Alabama have put a heavy emphasis on the linebacker position at defense. When we look at Jaden Harmon, composite, he's a 230th player in the nation per 247 Sports, number 22 linebacker, and number 34 player out of Georgia. Now, the composite has him as a 155 player, 18th linebacker, and the 19th ranked player in Georgia. Now, here's the thing with that. Alabama currently has commitments from 2 linebackers, one being Dawson Merritt and the other being Daryl Duke Johnson, who blow that out of the water. Merritt is the number 14th linebacker in the country. He's the number 4 from his state in Kansas. And then Daryl Duke Johnson out of Eastman, Georgia, is the number 4 linebacker in the country. And he's the number 7 player in the state of Georgia per composite rankings 247 Sport. He's also the 33rd nationally ranked player. Then on top of that, you've got Luke Metz, who Alabama is recruiting, and Abdul Sanders Jr., who Alabama is still actively recruiting, and they have verbals from both of these guys. So that's 4 linebackers there. We do know that Dawson Merritt will likely play that wolf position, that hybrid. But let's take Merritt out of the equation. Luke Metz, Abdul Sanders Jr., Daryl Johnson. The competition in this 2025 recruiting class for linebacker is very, very stiff. And there's a chance that Jaden Harmon got a good deal, and we'll see the field very quickly at Tennessee compared to Alabama. So it may have been a better fit for him. The guy's a stud. The guy is an amazing linebacker. He is a very, very raw talent. But Alabama already has that raw talent in Tuscaloosa. On top of that, Alabama is in the running for 4-star linebacker Ty Jackson out of Florida. Jackson has Alabama and a couple of other schools in his final considerations. That would be Florida State, Florida, even Georgia, in his final considerations, and he will commit later on in the year. Jackson is the number 13 linebacker in the country. He's the number 95 player in the country. He's the 15th highest ranked player out of the state of Florida. We all know that Florida is a hotbed for recruiting. He's a 91 rated 4-star linebacker. And Alabama is still in hot and heavy pursuit for Ty Jackson. So if Bama does their job and they're able to lock down Ty Jackson, it cushions the blow of losing a guy like Jaden Harmon. That's not to say that losing Jaden Harmon is okay. That is still a very big loss, and it hurts. But in the national picture and what Kalen DeBoer and his team and staff are doing in Tuscaloosa, they've already won the battle when it comes to recruiting. They've already done what they had to do. We've been telling you guys for months, if they can come in and put together a top 5 recruiting class, Alabama's going to be fine. Not only that, we are, 13 days away from the season starting. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of question marks about Alabama's defense. That's what these coaches are selling these kids. Well, Nick Saban's not there. Their defense is not going to be as good as it used to be. It can't be, blah, 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 this and that. Kids are buying that. But once they see a product on the field, and we talked about this in a video last week, I believe it was on our Thursday Night Live, but once players start to see Alabama's defense mesh and look like a bunch of headhunters and put guys in the draft still without Nick Saban there, the recruiting will take care of itself. So there's no reason to jump ship. There's no reason to sound the alarms. There's no reason to ring the bells. Everything is okay in Tuscaloosa. Again, and I'm going to preach this until the ink has dried and these NLIs are faxed in to each school. Nothing is set in stone until December. Alabama is going to flip guys. They're likely going to get good news this week with AK Deer. Expect another flip away from Alabama after that good news comes in. They're probably going to lose a couple of more guys. This is the nature of the sport that we've created with NIL. Kids don't have to commit to their word. Their word means nothing anymore. That's not fair. Maybe to some of these kids, their word does mean something. But when somebody's holding a bag of cash, $100,000, $200,000 in their face, it's hard. It's hard. You've got players in college with private jets. You've got players, seniors in high school showing up to their college announcements in Lamborghinis. You've got rumors about all sorts of unethical acts at recruiting weekends, which there's probably some truth to because it's happened before. Those of you in the know who I'm talking about. This is the current nature of the sport. College football is $1 billion industry. And these coaches are going to do whatever they've got to do to flip whoever they've got to flip. And we're talking about 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids here. Alabama, as it goes for Alabama, is going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Again, they're sitting with the number 2 class in the country. They've got 4 linebacker commits, 2 of which rank higher than the one they just lost to Tennessee. They're going after one of the nation's best talents at linebacker in Ty Jackson out of Florida. If they get him, we'll all forget about Jaden Harmon. I promise. Ty Jackson's legit. I've watched his film. He's good. He's really good. If you haven't, I do suggest you check him out. Don't let the other fans with, what's going on in Tuscaloosa, blah, 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 Husky Harsin, those things, don't let them get to you. Don't entertain it. Because the overall picture is that Alabama's sitting behind Ohio State with the number 2 class right now. They're likely going to finish in the top 3 or 4, at least the top 5. When a lot of these classes who are flipping these guys, Auburn, Tennessee, are not. Yeah, they're going to probably finish in the top 10. But once Georgia gets done with their tear, they haven't peaked in recruiting yet. I know a lot of Alabama fans don't want to hear that, but it's true. But just wait until the season starts. Just wait until people see this 4-2-5 defense. Just wait until they see what Coach Womack does with this wolf position. Just wait till they see the pass rush. Just wait till they start to see this young group of 5-star DBs, along with Damani Jackson, Malachi Moore, start to mesh and shut down quarterbacks. The tune will change. It'll change. You guys know the drill. Before I go, I've got to ask you to do all the things. Please like, share, subscribe. To our members, we're currently in a little bit of an issue with YouTube over memberships. We're getting that resolved. So if you're not seeing your member benefits, that is why. We're working on it. We'll have it resolved by the end of the week. Nothing to worry about there. But please, like I said, like, subscribe, tell your coworkers about us, tell your friends about us, send our link to people you know, get them in here. But as always, we've got more content coming up. We've got After Dark this week on Wednesday night, live show on Thursday. Please be there. Be active, engaged. You guys tell me in the comment section below if I'm wrong here, if I'm just coping, which I know all the Tennessee fans that are going to watch this video are going to say I'm just coping. That's fine. They can say what they want. But tell me, am I right? Am I wrong? How are you feeling? As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.